So we negotiated to get a couple leases. By the way, we haven't introduced Christine yet. Christine?
Hello, I'm Christine. I'm the managing director. So every time we do our due diligence, we do a lease audit. And when we do the lease audit, we go through all the leases to check for accuracy. And we also would like to know, what the actual rents are and what the lease terms are. So a couple things that we're going to check for. We're going to check for rent amounts. We're going to check for a lease start and end date to see if anybody's on month to month and who's going to need to be renewed. We will check for occupants to see how many occupants are in each apartment and if there are any pets and what the security deposit is, the security deposit amount is, so that we can ensure that the records that we get match up to what is in the lease file, so that when we take over, it
What is
is also
this thing anyway?
So this is a lease file.
It's called a file tag.
Holy shit.
So usually, what you're gonna have is
What's in there? Yeah, what's
in the lease file, you're gonna have the application. What that's usually gonna consist of is the tenant's ID, social security card, information, application, income, insurance, where they work.
We also look at the income and where they work so that we can get a general idea of demographics of the property, whether it be that maybe we want to, if we're going to be increasing rents, can they afford the rents based on where they work? And if not, then we may realize that we're going to have to, when we push rents, we're probably going to have a lot of people move, and that way we have an idea of what our occupancy and exposure is going to be.
So what kind of income are you looking at? Or looking for, I guess?
Obviously, it depends on the property, but we always look for, it's either 2.5 times the rent amount or 3 times. It kind of depends on the demographics. Sometimes we'll go down to 2.5 if we need to, but typically we like to see 3 times.
Yes, and we always look at the gross. We don't look at the net. So we always look at what their gross income is, and that can be anything from their job, social security, child support, disability. So any kind of income they have. If they're an independent worker, they might have bank statements. Or their tax returns, so we just kind of look for all of that. And then all of the leases should be in here, including all of the addendums. Some properties are going to be a little bit different with the addendums, depending on what they have. If they have a fitness center, a pool, like for Charbonneau, for example, we have the quarry, so we'd want an addendum for that, just for the safety and rules and regulations. And you always want to make sure that all of the leases are here. If you've had somebody that's lived here for 10 years, you should have 10 leases in here, with the most recent at the front.
Unless, a lot of places actually will not renew leases, so that's another thing we're looking for, is if the lease is actually still valid or if it's expired. And if it's expired, then we obviously want to find out, check the rent amount, see if they've pushed rents or not. And then when we come in, we know that, how many leases we're going to need to renew, because we typically don't like people to be month to month. If they are month to month, we're going to charge an extra $100. So typically we'll come in and we'll say, these people need to renew their lease.
So on a high level, so take me the 60,000 foot level, 30,000 foot level, what are the major things you're looking at here? Because you're not necessarily reading through every addendum and everything.
No.
What would you say the high level items that you're trying to spot?
Rent amount,
Okay.
lease start and end date, and if they're on month to month. Those are going to be the most
Whether it's
important
Section 8
things.
also, we are obviously keeping track of that.
Yeah.
Sweet. What's a red flag? So what would you spot as a red flag?
So what we usually do when we do a lease audit is we're comparing what the property gives us on the rent roll. So what would be a red flag for me is if I'm looking on the rent roll, and this person, for instance, it says that their rent is $700 on their lease, but if it says $650 on the rent roll, that's going to be a red flag to me, and I'm going to wonder why. What's going on? Because they signed a lease that says that their rent is $700, but they're being charged $650. So that's going to be a huge red flag.
And what would so then you go ask the manager or something, right?
We send a list over to the manager and ask them all the questions, and either it's just an error and they fix the error, or figure out what we need to do about the problem. Sometimes they need to, they'll say, oh no, we need to go and have them sign a new lease or something like that. A lot of times what we see is on the rent roll, it's actually a higher rent than what's in the lease, and that's just because they haven't updated the leases. But they typically update the rent roll because that's how they get their money. So if they raise the rent $50, they're going to make sure they get that $50. They just might not have done the paperwork to give us the lease.
And if that's the case, then we definitely need the lease, because especially right now with COVID going on, if you're going to go to court for somebody for non-payment of rent, your lease has to be accurate, because if your ledger and your rent roll says one amount and your lease says another amount, the judge is going to rule in the favor of the resident, and that's really bad.
Yeah.
Right. We also want to verify that all the leases are signed. Sometimes you'll find leases that are actually not even signed.
So 138 units, how long, because we do 100% of leases,
Right.
how long would it take you to go through all those?
Depends on how many people, because sometimes we'll have maybe 3 or 4 people, because, it's easier when you have like kind of, just a conveyor belt or whatever you want to call it, where I'll call out numbers, she'll type them into the computer. So we do it on an Excel spreadsheet.
Sweet.
We'll have the rent roll on an Excel spreadsheet. I'll type out numbers, she'll put in the numbers, and then we'll be able to see the discrepancies later.
Sweet.
All right, Tyler, so I'm going to sit down with the girls. I'm going to let you go throughout the rest of the property. We're just going to stay here.
Do what?
And we're just gonna let you
Oh, to
tour the
answer that
property here.
question, it's a day to a day and a half depending.
Day and a half.
It's
Okay.
not,
But I would block out a week, just in case, because like this is a really good file.
Okay.
You're not gonna find it like this all the time.
A lot of times
You're
it's a
gonna
complete
find
mess.
a file that's like this thick and nothing is in order. Obviously, that's gonna take you 10 times longer.
Gotcha.
right, so.
A week. Holy shit! How much do you guys have to drink during that time frame? Or drinks not allowed?
No, we
Drinks
do
are
not.
always allowed, by the way. Drinks are always allowed. Okay.
Fun is always
Spicy
allowed.
Bloody Mary right now, huh? We're
Nice.
up.
Ooh, I love it.
We have to have fun, so.
Got it.
Our son Adam actually did the last lease audit with us, 21 years old. First time he's ever doing it. He told his dad later, he's like, those girls are always kind of laughing and joking around and everything. And we got 150, last time we did 150 done in a day and a half.
That's
So
awesome.
it doesn't matter that we were laughing and having a good time. It doesn't have to be miserable.
No, that's how come you did it in a day and a half.
Right.
Because you were laughing. I think so.
Yeah, I think
But now her other son, Eric, has, corona in his bona. It's not good.
Possibly, I don't
It's
know.
not good.
I'm gonna stay away from him for a little bit.
All right, I'll let you guys keep talking. We're going to go to the restroom. Is there anything else you want to talk about on
Are you gonna
leases?
video
No, we
him in
can-
the
You guys go
restroom?
on? You have to zoom in. You got a big old zoom. All right, knock out a couple more of these questions. One of them is there is there an ideal unit mix or unit size that maximizes profitability, right? So in short, we prefer more 2 and 3 bedroom units. Like, so for example, this property here, it consists of 1 and 2 bedroom units. There's 39 1 bedroom, 1 bath units, and the remaining 99 units are 2 bedroom, 2 bath. So that means 2 bedroom, 2 bath units, represent about 74% of the total unit mix. We like more 2 and 3 bedrooms for a couple reasons, okay? We can charge more for rent. It typically attracts, a more qualified tenant. Jeez, flies all over me right now. Attracts a more qualified tenant. They're easier to rent during a downturn as well. Unit size, there's not like a specific, there's flies everywhere. It's not necessarily like a specific unit size that we look for, but it's comparable market value, right? So we'll do the comparisons. How does, the competitors in the area, are their apartments bigger or smaller than ours, right? Which helps us understand where where our position is within the market. I just got all that on video. You guys did look fantastic. What's going on over here?
We're doing lease audits, man.
I'm doing maintenance request audits.
Yes.
Maintenance requests?
Yes.
Christine, what are you doing?
I'm also doing lease audits.
Okay, Ryan?
Ryan needs some help.
Is Ryan, be honest, is Ryan,
I'm doing lease audits too right now.
okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, I know for sure, for a fact that Ryan ain't doing shit right now. Okay?
Tyler, show them all the leases that we have to go through in the
All right, let's go. All right, so this is Windridge. This is another property, okay, different property. This is one that we do not have under contract, but we're very interested in this one. We've actually just submitted the offer. And here's what's interesting, right? So we always talk about these bigger properties. Rivercrest is one that we have out here, 150. Charbonneau that we just talked about, that's 138. This one's 46 units, smaller. It's all duplexes, right? So there's 13 duplexes. No, sorry, 23 duplexes. Math, tough. So, you look at this little property, and a lot of people would just roll on by, but it's getting creative, okay? So this one's 46 units. It's a generational property. You have the son who's in the leasing office right here. Him and his dad have ran this for a very long time. And it's a beautiful little property. So this is right off of a main road right here too. And then this is tucked back, right? So you have the trees, obviously, that are beautiful. People love duplexes. Man, they love duplexes. So, we don't love having, 23 or whatever different buildings. But here's the thing here. These rents, if you look, we're gonna go look at an interior and I'll show you this. But these rents right now are like $300 on a minimum, $300 underneath market value. Now that's huge, right? Now the downside of a smaller property like this is you usually don't have on-site staff. They do have actually a leasing office down here, but we will not, okay? We're looking at another property right down the road, literally it's 2 blocks away. I'll show it to you. Actually, we'll go there next. That one is 99 units. So now you pair them together, right now you have 150 units right here in the same area, different unit mixes, right? You can share payroll. It's getting creative, okay? It is getting creative. We know there's huge value out here, a little interior work that needs to be done, some landscaping, right? Definitely, a little bit on the exteriors too, but roofs are in good shape. I really like this property, okay? It's called Windridge. And then we'll go down the road here a little bit to what we call Creek and show you how we'll pair them together, right? 2 separate entities. Maybe we buy it in a fund. Maybe we buy it as 2 syndications. We just share payroll, but it's a way to get creative, right? That's a key.
All right, as you see right here, down in this area, one thing is we're underwriting the deal. We noticed that the utilities are, pretty high. So one thing that we're negotiating with them on this property is they have to fix all the piping here. You see it's kind of muddy right here. Now, it is, it looks like someone probably came out and did something and tried to fix it already. But this is something that could make or break a deal as well. As you heard Greg talk about earlier is, they're not necessarily deal breakers, but this is built back in the mid '80s, so some of the piping is cast iron. It could be a potential problem. So that's something that we negotiate with them to fix before we come in. This right here is costing us in the numbers it's costing them right now $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So I mean, 36,000 to 48,000, forwards what 48,000. You might have to help me with math there, but anyway, it's costing us or the seller right now about $36,000 to $48,000 a year. And so for that's a pretty big number there. And so they agreed to fix it before we came in. So that's something you'll want to do as well, is notice the things that you want fixed during a walkthrough to get those negotiated in the contract or in your PSA before you take over. So anyway, something important to look at.
All right, so this one I can't bring the camera in for the walkthrough, okay? So this one we actually are about to close on. So let me give you a quick rundown of this property. Right? Broker relationship. We lost a deal with the broker that it was their fault. The seller and the broker felt horrible. The broker wanted to make it up for us. Insert Parker Rivercrest. This was off-market deal, a true off-market deal. We were the only people to see this deal, which is how we were able to negotiate the way that we were. Our broker actually reached out to the seller, knew of this area, knew that we loved this area. There's a ton of growth and stuff happening in this area. So found the seller, contacted the seller, and then found a way to negotiate a purchase. But we were the only ones to even lay eyes on this property. Our initial walkthrough, so here's the beauty, right? We talked about under-promising, over-delivering. Our initial walkthrough on this, we definitely thought that there was going to be more needed, right? We were only able to get into a couple of the units. We walk around the exterior, it looks pretty clean, actually really clean, but we weren't quite sure, right? Because it was also, a lot of things were shut down. We didn't get into the leasing office. We couldn't see that. We couldn't see the gym. We couldn't see a number of the things that were shut down due to coronavirus. So we accounted for more within our budget. Then we get into due diligence. So now we're under contract with those numbers. Now we get into due diligence, and we realize that there is not as much work that needs to be done on this property as we initially planned for, which is a beautiful position to be in because we've already projected returns to our investors here, right? But because we have this extra money, which we'll use as a reserve, we always have that. There's always ways to improve the value even more, which now we can take them to here. Right out the gates, we know that. This one, we're picking up this property for $63,000 a door. And market comparables, I'm sure I've mentioned this, we're in the high 80s a door in this area, 86, 87,000 a door. There's a lot of room there. Rents, so value adds here, right? Rents are about 150 or so on average, below market rents. But the property's beautiful. Okay, now we get in the leasing office. It's been completely redone. It's the interiors, a good chunk of the interiors are already done. But I'm going to tell you why rents are below. Okay, as we were in due diligence, we realized more of this because once again we couldn't get in to see much through our initial walkthrough. But as we get into due diligence, we realized the operations on a property is so critical. So this owner had owned it for owned it for 6 years. The market's been doing very, very well. They're very profitable and they are comfortable. And I'm going to tell you what is the most deadly thing is comfortable. Comfortable, you get deadly because you rest back a little bit. You don't raise rents, right? You don't do those extra little things that maximize those returns. This is also why we don't just hold the property forever. Okay, it's because when you hold the property forever, you're inevitably going to get comfortable. What we like to do is progress, right? We like to buy it, force it, right? Maximize that exit price, and then redo it into another property. That's the fun part of this, right? So Parker Rivercrest, 150 units, huge value add opportunities within this property. Also an all bills paid property. So this once again will come in, separate it out, everything into the tenant's name, reduces our expenses, increases the increases the bottom line, increases the value and everything on this property. So I guess the point with all this, right? Broker relationships coming full circle. If we would have, because we were pissed, by the way, okay, the deal that we lost, we were not happy about that. And even though we know it's not the broker's fault, the broker represents the seller, and the broker is also the one who brought us this pocket listing. So we also expect them, there's two of them, to go to bat with the seller. And they did, okay? I'm very confident that they did. Some sellers are just rough, right? That's why that deal didn't work. If we would have burnt the bridge, there's no way Parker Rivercrest would happen. When we had to back out of that deal, we backed out of that deal in due diligence. Okay, now because of things that were not disclosed and areas that the seller wasn't willing to budge on. But when we backed out, I'm going to tell you how we handled it. We talked to the broker. We said, hey man, I know that you have this obligation to the seller, and we don't want to ruin that, man. We don't want to affect that relationship with y'all. But I want you to understand from our perspective, we have this responsibility to our investors, and we want to make sure that we take care of them as well. And this position that we're put in, right, puts us in a position that is too risky for that. And so that's a danger, right? So I want to figure out a way. If there's a way that we can help you with the seller, so that you don't lose that reputation, you don't end on a bad foot with them, we would love to help you. Maybe we can bring in other buyers that we know that might be interested, or whatever we can do, right? We didn't have to do any of that stuff. The broker knows. They knew what the problems were, right? They knew that the seller was being unreasonable for sure. But I want you to understand what that does to the broker. The broker appreciates the hell out of that. So what do they do? There's two of them once again. They go and they find us a deal that they know that we will freaking love, and that's the beauty of relationships. It gets easier and easier the more that you take care of people. So be creative, be nice to people, and you will freaking kill it in this business. All right, that's it. I'm out.